Good morning, folks. It's a little chilly here in the old fifth wheel trailer. 8, maybe 9 degrees below zero outside right now, Fahrenheit. And I thought that I'd start putting together the first video of the year. And what are we going to talk about in this one? We're going to talk and we're going to show you some stuff. We're going to go over a bunch of stuff. Basically, I guess you could call it a past, present, and future video for me. And what made me do what I am trying to do? What was the whole genesis of that? So we'll get into that right now. I'm Sean in Alaska. Welcome. So I was born in San Francisco, California in the wonderful year of 1962. So I'm an older guy. At no point in my life was I really ever an outdoorsman. I'm not a prepper. I'm not a, um, doomsday kind of guy or anything like that. But one thing I realized when I was younger and in the Boy Scouts was that every time I went camping, every time I went into the wild, the wilderness, the woods, I came back so much more settled inside and stable inside and just balanced. Um, I spent a lot of my youth in the Boy Scouts camping. I fish. I've never really hunted. I've hunted birds and that kind of stuff, but I've never really hunted big game, although I do have everything I need to do that. Uh, but I've always been a person that didn't want to take more than I actually needed from the land. And I wanted to live, I knew this when I was younger, I wanted to live um, a lifestyle that would bring me in balance with everything around me. That being said, as I grew up in my family's bakery, so I'm a baker by trade. I ended up getting into different jobs that took me into kind of a corporate world and wore a suit and tie for quite a few years. Was always a manager, was always in charge of people. Um, and when I am in that position, I own it and found that it was really taking a toll on me. And I'll show you a picture right here of what I look like before I finally decided it was time to make some serious changes. At the point of that picture that you just saw right there, I was pushing close to 300 pounds, not very healthy. I was happy, I thought, but in reality, I kind of realized that things were not progressing in the right direction. And I've got two daughters, and now I've got two grandkids and another grandkid on the way. And there was so much more that I wanted to do, and there was so much more time that I wanted to spend with my kids and my family. I really needed to do something drastic. So the first part of it became get myself healthy again, and I did that via basically a pretty strict keto diet, which I'm not on right now. And I dropped quite a bit of weight really quick, and then I got a lot more active. And I found that the more active I was, and the more healthy I ate, the more healthy my lifestyle became, the more active I wanted to be. And so I would be a firm believer in. There was an old commercial. I'm trying to recall whether it was for a drug for a pharmacy thing, but it really stuck with me. The statement did. Objects in motion. Well, and I guess it's the law of perpetual motion. Objects in motion want to stay in motion. Objects at rest want to stay at rest. So the more you move, the more you'll want to move. The more you live a sedentary life, the more you would just sit around and watch the TV or play the video game or do that kind of stuff, the more you're going to want to do that, the more you're not going to want to move around. So I took it upon myself to really become a lot more active. Alaska was a place that I moved to originally in 1998. And it was after a divorce that was not a good one. And basically, Alaska had always been a dream for me. So I made the move. I sent a resume up via Next Day Air to the company that I work for now. And they called me back 3 days later and said, do you want to work here? And I moved to Fairbanks. And I lived there for 2.5, almost 3 years. And then our company bought another chain in Texas. And I ended up going down to run, I think it was 140 or 240 bakeries in Texas. And then that picture that you saw earlier was me after I had left Texas and come back. So the job was challenging. It was a lot of fun, but the stress was not something that I was interested in doing. Back to Alaska. So I moved up here, or I had always dreamed of moving back to Alaska. And when I moved back to California, both my daughters ended up living with me for, a period of time. And my youngest daughter ended up living with me through most of her high school years and until she graduated from high school. And I had always decided that, or I had decided that I was moving back here, and I was going to build a cabin. The plan was I was going to cut down the trees. I was going to build a log cabin by hand. Read a bunch of books, studied a bunch of stuff on it, and realized that the part of Alaska that I wanted to live in didn't have trees really big enough to do that. And it kind of would defeat the purpose for me if I would have bought the logs. So that became the reasoning behind building a stick frame cabin here. Moved to Alaska, went to work for the same company I'm working for now, and had paid off all my debts, had gotten everything all squared away, and really started enjoying life again. If I could say anything to any single person out there watching this video right now, if you have a dream, no matter what your dream is, and I say this often in my videos, even if it's a little tiny dream or if it's a huge dream, start chasing it, because it will amaze you how much of a difference it will make to you personally, to your personal being, to be striving after something that you want. You don't have to even succeed at it to make a difference in your life and to your stress levels and everything else, if you're just chasing that thing. So I came up here, again, not a huge outdoorsman. I do love to go camping all the time. I fish quite a bit. Not a hunter, not a prepper, not a homesteader, but I came up here with the desire to buy a piece of land and see and build a cabin by hand, and see how much I could accomplish by myself. Life is kind of challenging, and I found that the more often I challenge myself, the better it makes me feel. So by setting goals for myself that many would think are unattainable, I've really found that I kind of rise to the occasion, and it's been an awesome journey so far. So that brings me to present day. Right now, I'm in the fifth wheel trailer. It's a bit chilly outside, and I'm planning in my mind what I'm going to do this spring. Let's go back to what happened the past spring. After being in Alaska here now since 2013 and living in first the motor home that I drove up here in, and then the fifth wheel trailer that I bought, that I'm in now, excuse me. I finally got the piece of land, and I finally got busy on getting it ready for the cabin. Last year I came in here and started to clear out some trees for basically where the driveway is going to go. I'll get very serious about that in the next week or so. Got the chainsaw on the truck. I'll be coming in every day. The plan is the driveway is going to come back here. I'll take out enough trees to make this thing wide enough to drive through, because I'll be bringing the motorhome over here and parking it here while I'm working on it. Eventually this will be the home of the motorhome. And I got kind of like a little clearing area here, as you can see. Neighbors are over there. I do have neighbors. I'm going to cut everything down in here. I think the cabin's going to be placed back right over here. I'll take a little walk over that way. So on the weekend of my birthday, May 17th of this year, I packed everything in on where I had already kind of flagged out where my driveway would be. Now, mind you, my construction experience is very little. Never done a whole lot of prep. I've never done really any prep work for any construction. I've done a little bit of concrete work. I've done some hod carrying. I've laid some tile. I framed a wall, but it was an interior wall. I've never framed a wall on the exterior of a structure. So my construction knowledge is just kind of what you would get from working around the house and kind of doing your own upgrades. So I brought all my camping gear out here to the property, and I was living about a mile and a half away from here in my buddy's driveway. My buddy Will, you'll see him comment on here on occasion. He usually says a lot of derogatory things towards me. Don't ever take that the wrong way, because Will and we're tight, and that's the relationship we have. But I hacked my tent in, pitched my tent up, brought all the gear that I would need to stay out here on the property, and came out here every single weekend and pretty much every day I could after work, weather permitting, because when it rains and it's nasty, I didn't want to be out here trying to fall trees. And I dropped all the trees that I needed to fall in the area of the driveway, in the area of where I've got the fifth wheel trailer park right now, and for the pad section of where the cabin is going to be. And I'll show you some pictures of my setup for my tent here, what the property looked like when I first walked in here. I might even have some old video. I'll go back and look and see if I have some old video on that. And then the area that I cut out, what it looked like kind of before and after, so that you can see what I accomplished in one summer. And by no means could I could have accomplished a great deal more if I had really applied myself to that next step, to pushing myself that far. But I'm trying to do as much of this on cash as I can, and I just didn't want to blow the bank on this first year of getting everything set up. So I moved onto the property in the fall of this year, and this is the first winter on the property. It's not my first winter in a trailer, and it's not my first winter in Alaska. So I kind of knew what I was in for, but at the same time, where I was living before, it was really easy to walk into the house and use the restroom at my buddy's place. It was really, really easy to walk in and do my laundry there. It was really simple to walk in and I had a freezer, chest freezer sitting outside his back door. So to store food and to grab water for doing dishes and that kind of stuff was super simple. And I was also plugged in at his place. So I could walk in and I could just flip on a light switch. I could just turn on my laptop and I could watch movies. I could do all that kind of stuff. So this is really technically my first year ever in my life being 100% off grid. There's been some challenges. Doing dishes can be a challenge if you don't have the water stored up, and also kind of difficult when your pipes freeze, when your drain pipes freeze. I have to be very careful about what I actually wash here, and I have to make sure that I get all the food scraped away and thrown in garbage bags so that none of that goes down the sink, because the water actually just drains out the back of the fifth wheel trailer to an area that I have staged out there. But I don't, like I said, I don't wash a whole bunch of stuff out there, and I'm not using any chemicals here on the property that are bad for the environment or bad for the wildlife. So I got onto the property and have been toying around with all the different things that I need to know for living off grid. Like I said, I'm going to park the trailer right over there. I'm going to park the truck right over there. Move the camera here to get a little bit more better light. So some of the things you'll have to take into consideration if you're going to live off grid. Number one, probably the ultimate thing to think of is water, because you use a great deal more water than you actually think you use. And water is of utmost importance to sanitation, to health, to just your basic everyday life. So for me, I have two forms of water. I buy bottled water for drinking. And for making the coffee and that kind of stuff. And then I still head over to my buddy Will's house, and I've got 14 gallons or two 7-gallon containers that I fill up with water, and I use that for cleaning, for washing up, for shaving, for, that kind of stuff. So water, super, super important. I've lived without water and I've lived without electricity. And of the two, it's much more difficult to live without water than it is to live without electricity. The second thing you have to think about is food storage. In my case, living in Alaska, it's relatively simple. I work at a grocery store, so I don't have to store a whole lot of perishable items here in the house. Some of the items that I do store here in the house, I'll bring home Like last night, I brought home some pork chops. I'm going to have those for dinner tonight. So they're sitting in the refrigerator. I've got that kind of figured out by taking 2-gallon jugs of water this time of year and placing them outside. They freeze solid, and then I swap those out with the 2-gallon jugs that I have in the refrigerator right now. And as the cold seeps out of those jugs, it drops down. So I've got them on the top shelf of the refrigerator, and it keeps my refrigerator at roughly 40, right in the food zone, 41 degrees, right in there. So there's the storage of that kind of food. For anything I need to freeze, I can actually throw it in the storage room that I built in an earlier video. And anything in that room pretty much freezes solid. And I don't keep a whole lot of stuff here that I need to keep frozen. And then the dry ingredients are simple. That's not a big deal. Cheese I can leave on the counter because it's cool enough inside the trailer to keep the cheese for long periods of time. And then cured meats, same thing. You know, you don't have to worry about storing those as much. By cured meats, I'm saying salami, bacon just needs to stay chilled. But once I open the pack, I have to go through that pretty quick. The water, got that covered. The storage of food, got that semi-covered. I could use an ice chest to assist with that, and I probably will have to during the summer. Using a restroom, I built the outhouse for that. There's a video of that as well. And then electricity. And I put that down on the bottom of the list because I use a lot less electricity than I ever thought I used in the past. When I lived in California, where I'm originally from, everything I had was electric. I had an electric stove. I didn't have a dishwasher because I just washed dishes by hand. But I had, the TVs, the DVD players, the VCRs, the game consoles, the stereo systems, the lighting, the refrigeration, the air conditioning. The heater was a wood stove in California and backed it up with a propane heater. But everything I used was electric. And when I decided I was going to do this and I was going to go off grid, I had to figure out how I was going to do things like lighting, for example. And let me spin this around here and show you. All right, that is an 18-inch, get the camera back where it needs to be. That is an 18-inch LED strip light. And that is all run off of a single deep cycle marine battery that I have downstairs here. And then I charge on the generator. So I did purchase a generator because that will have a future impact on what's going on here too. But other than that, electrically speaking, I charge my cell phone via this little battery bank that I bought during the summer when I realized I needed power. And I charge my batteries for my camera gear and everything else when I've got the generator fired up here at the house. This item I take to work with me, and I actually plug it into a work computer and charge it all the way up during the day while I'm at work, and then I bring it home with me. So I've always got a charge on it. And like I said, the cell phone, I go ahead and I charge that up off of this or off of the lighter adapter that I have in my pickup truck. So electronically speaking, that's my biggest use of electrical here at the trailer and on the property. For the lighting, same thing. It's this light's on, these lights are off. So wherever I'm at, those lights are on, and if I'm not in there, those lights are off. And I charge that battery via the generator. And contrary to an earlier video where I actually had the generator running and the battery charging inside, I do disconnect the battery and take it out and plug it into the charger out there when it's fired up. It's a little more challenging when it's this cold because that generator doesn't really like below zero temperatures, and it's just in an open storage unit. So water, food storage, taking care of personal things, and electrical. Can't really think of a whole lot more that I have to worry about. That pretty much covers living off grid for me. It's pretty simple. I have a pretty basic life. I don't watch a whole lot of TV. I don't watch really any TV. I watch movies on Amazon Prime. I have a Tubi app, so I can watch movies on that as well. I have access to the internet. There's one for you via this cell phone right now. And I have 15 gigabytes of hotspot availability. So when I'm running this in hotspot mode, I can connect my laptop to it. But I have to be careful because if I go over 15 gigabytes, it ends up throttling me and I don't have much of a internet speed at all. And I have really good cell phone reception here. It's not 5G, it's 4G, 4G LTE, but my download speeds at Will's place when I was connected to his Wi-Fi were like 2.1 down, and I was lucky if I was getting 1 megabit per second up. And I know that's kind of techy, but that's really, really slow. And when I hotspot off of the cell phone here, I can get 25 megabits per second down, and I can get upwards of 10 megabits per second up, which is huge. So that I upload my videos here as long as I have a cell signal. When the weather really gets bad, I have to go to town and do it there because we can lose the cell towers out here with bad weather. So yeah, I've got that kind of all dialed in. I have 2 hard drives that I use to store everything on. And one's a primary, one's a backup, so that I hopefully will, knock on wood here, not lose any of the video and photos and images that I have. I have a Canon camera, and I have the cell phone that I use to record all my videos with. So as long as I remember to charge all that stuff up, I'm fine. And the Canon camera has a shotgun microphone to it. I purchased that this year. Oh, and I have a drone. So yeah, that's my main worry of electronics. As a backup to the lighting that I have in here, I have a couple of kerosene lamps, a bunch of candles. The kerosene lamps work fine. It's an interesting way to live when the kerosene lamps are on and I've got all the power off. You want to talk about being centered? You want to talk about bringing yourself down to, a primitive level? It's pretty awesome, pretty darn incredible. So I've got the basics all ironed out for this year. I accomplished pretty much everything I wanted to get accomplished. It would have been nice to get a few more things done. It would have been great to have, for example, the posts in for the piers in for the foundation for the cabin, because I probably could have worked on that this winter. But all in all, I pretty much accomplished what I set out to do here this year. And that was get the property to the point where I could live on it. So what do I have planned going forward for the future? What's going to happen this year and down the road? As soon as the thaw hits and I can get to bare ground again, the first thing I'm going to do is measure out and put in the piers for the foundation for the cabin. The cabin's going to be 20 feet by 24 feet, and it's going to have a loft over half of it, and it's going to have a full kitchen, full bathroom, even though the bathroom won't be plumbed right away, and we'll talk about that in a second, and a pantry, a living room, and then upstairs it'll be 20 by 12 for the bedroom to begin with a staircase going up. Under the staircase, I'm planning on putting all of the batteries, the charge controller, and everything. The cabin's going to be 100% off-grid and solar. So when I build the cabin, I'm going to build the cabin as if I have everything that I need in it. It's going to have all the plumbing installed, all the wiring installed. It will still be 100% off-grid, though. The eventual plan is to put a well in. That is probably not going to happen this year, just because of the cost of doing a well. It probably cost me about 10 grand to do that, and I would rather be able to pay 100% cash to have that done. But back to the generator and its future goal, the cabin's going to be powered by solar, and the generator has a remote start on it. And the solar people that I talked to, I showed them this generator when I was getting ready to purchase it, and they said that will work. So the solar charge controller will read the state of the charge on my batteries, and if it's not getting enough charge from the sun, which it won't in the winter, obviously, it will send a signal to the generator to fire up, and the generator will be the backup to charge the battery system for the house. Again, I don't expect to have my electric needs go up that much once I'm in the cabin itself. The stove will be propane, so there'll be no electrical cost for that at all. It'll be a full-size propane stove. And the refrigeration, while I originally thought I would go with propane on it, the cost for a propane refrigerator is ridiculous. So I'm looking more now at, there's a brand out there called Unique that makes propane and electric off-grid refrigerators that everything I've seen and the people I've talked to that have them just love them. They work great, and their electric draw is really, really small. So I'll probably go in that direction as well. I'm a single guy, so it's not like I have a family that's going to be opening and closing refrigerator doors all day long. So spring hits, start putting in the posts and piers for the foundation, get the cabin started as soon as I possibly can. I want to make this my last year in the trailer, and get that house livable by the end of the season this year. Um, I also have plans for a garden, so I have to figure out how I'm going to do that. Because if I'm going to start any seeds, I need to get some grow lights, and I've done that in here before, um, but I had electricity then, so running grow lights can be a bit of a challenge because our right now the sun comes up at 10 o'clock in the morning and the sun sets at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 4:15 in the afternoon. So there's not enough daylight hours in there at all to grow anything. So I want to get a garden in. I want it to be big enough to supplement most of my needs for um, what I will eat over the next year, over the next season. And I need to build a chicken coop because I want to get chickens so that I have fresh eggs. I love eggs. I love omelets. I love eggs over easy for breakfast every morning. So I've got a whole bunch on my plate. Um, it's going to be an exciting, exciting year for me. And hopefully it will be exciting for you, and you'll want to watch me and follow along as this journey unfolds. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. I already know that. I've already made some, and I've gone, oh, you weren't thinking when you did that, were you? But I learn every time I make a mistake. You can't learn something unless you do it, and you're never going to do it right the first time. You can read about it, and I'm really good at that. I'm really good at reading about it. I taught myself how to do a ton of stuff. I taught myself how to make cheese, taught myself how to make bacon, taught myself how to bake real bread, which is what I'm working on now. I've taught myself how to can food, taught myself how to make all these different things in preparation for the lifestyle that I want to have. And I have screwed up so many times on the way, and you'll get a chance to see all that too, because I don't cut any of that out. If I make a mistake, I let you know, oops, I blew that one. I want to see more of Alaska this year. I want to force myself to take some time to visit the state that I live in, to be a tourist in my own home. And I would suggest that you folks, no matter where you live, no matter where you're watching this from, do the same. Get out and see the things in and around your area that people come from all over the world to visit. So when I lived in San Francisco, my entire, when I was born there and grew up there and lived in that part of California for my entire life, I didn't walk across the Golden Gate Bridge until I was 30 years old. And it amazed me. It was just an amazing, people fly from all over the world just to say they did that. And I never did that. Get out and enjoy what's around you. I plan on doing a bit more of that this year. So cabin, chickens, garden, tourist in Alaska, more fishing, got to build a smokehouse. I got a ton of stuff I want to do this year. Will I accomplish it all? I don't know. There's a good chance I won't. But like I said earlier, if you have a dream and you have a goal, you point yourself in that direction and you strive to get there. And by doing so, you may not accomplish it, but every day that you make that step forward, every day that I make that step forward, I get that much closer to where I want to be. I said it before, I'm not a prepper. I'm not a homesteader. I'm not a doomsday kind of person. I'm not doing all of this for any other reason than to see if I can and to get myself to the point where I feel comfortable, which I hope never happens. I keep wanting to bite off as much as I possibly can. I would love to pick up another piece of property. I have one right next door to me that would almost double the size of my land. I have 1.4 acres right here that I plan on maximizing to the fullest extent I possibly can. I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to thank you guys for viewing the videos, and I want to thank all the subscribers that I've had from the beginning and all the new subscribers that it's just blown up for me over the last month here on the channel, and invite you to watch and join along on this video. I don't do most of my videos are not like this. I'm not going to sit here and talk to the camera most of the time. Most of the time you'll see me out doing something, and I invite you to look back at previous videos that I've done, but I really think this is going to be fun. And if I can inspire one person, just one single person, to say, hey, here's something I've always wanted to do, and I'm going to start trying to do that today, man, that's an awesome feeling. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. Real future goals down the road, I don't know yet. Things keep evolving. 5 years from now, I don't know. Maybe 5 years from now, I'll be on a different piece of property building the actual log cabin that I wanted to try to build to begin with. Maybe 5 years from now, I'll have both this piece of property, the one next to it, and I will be 100% self-sufficient and off the grid forever and ever and ever. I don't know what's going to happen down the road, but I'm just going to enjoy every single bit of this trip along the way, and I hope you guys enjoy it with me. I'm Sean in Alaska. It's getting close to sunrise. I think I better get cleaned up and get ready to go to town. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.